So today we are going to be making a foraging knife with knife expert Steven Tedford. You know that when you're in the bush you need the right equipment for the job. And what we're doing is we're making a foraging knife because foraging poses certain issues that need specialized equipment. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been making knives?
For the past 16 years I've been full-time making knives, and I've worked for people all over the world.
Is there a specific technique you specialize in?
The technique is really Japanese inspired,
Okay.
and everything's got a really flow to it. So just when it comes to any curves at all, it's about application. What kind of curve do we want there? What are we going to be doing? I can even see how your arm is going like this, and that is influencing right now how I'm designing it in my head.
So why make a hand-forged knife? Why shouldn't I just buy one from a factory?
Well, because for one, they are notoriously cheap on the materials they use, and if you're not going to use a fabulous material to make a knife, you're not going to have a fabulous knife.
When you're hand grinding, hand forging, what differences in the blade are we going to see compared to something that was, say, made in a factory?
Right, we're going to be using some more hand ground, so everything's going to fall from the back to the front. It falls downwards in a convex grind. That has to be done by hand. You can't have a computer or a jig or a grinding stone grind something that has a very complex arc to it. So that's one of our big advantages. So we're going to be able to taper the whole blade itself.
So the other thing that I always struggle with sort of factory-made knives is that the grips don't fit my hand. I have quite small hands. So how can we change that so that it suits my hand and feels comfortable for me?
Well, for me, I'm going to really look at your hand first. If I can give you some examples to hold in your hand, I want to see how you're holding it. But more so, what is your feedback? Do you say, oh, that doesn't feel right? And we're going to try to figure out why that doesn't feel right and incorporate it into your knife.
What sort of steel are we going to use and why?
Well, I think for our application, we're going to use a food grade 440C stainless steel. So we're going to use something that's got very high corrosion resistance, yet also gets very hard.
So what is the first step to designing here?
First, start off with the piece of steel we're going to use. Okay. And you want to sweep in the blade. I see you want to cut like this. You're visualizing that.
So you can see how it curves up on the tip here, which is really good for getting in, especially when you're collecting mushrooms and things.
Now this is just basic guidelines for me. When we actually get down to actually grinding this out, I'll be using my own feel then, and it's going to take on its own life.
So does that mean that each blade that you've ever made is completely unique?
Completely unique.
Wow, and there it is.
There it is.
Just freehand. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Does that look right?
Yeah, that looks great.
Well, I think that's pretty much our foraging knife right there. So we're going to start with tracing it out, put a rough idea of what we want on that piece of steel. We're going to grind that out, and I'm going to use some Japanese techniques of contouring it from back to front in a semi-convex grind that follows right back into the handle. Once we've ground it out, we're going to do the heat treatment process. So our first step is to make a nice smooth surface on there, because once it's hot and it's going into the quenching agent, in this case we're going to use virgin olive oil. I use virgin olive oil because it's non-toxic and it's got a high flash point, so it's not going to catch on fire on me. So once we've done that and we've got a nice hardness in the blade, we need to take some stress out of that blade, or it's going to be breaking at some point. You're going to use it and it's going to break. So once we've heat treated, we're going to go into the oven at 400 degrees. Then when it pulls out, I can straighten it out if it needs any straightening. And when I'm doing the straightening, that's a really great test as well. How did the heat treatment go? Does it break? You know, 1 out of 10 usually can break if I'm not doing something right. Once it's all straightened out, we're going to go, it's going to have a nice deep gray matte finish on it from the heat treatment process. We're going to start with 120 grit paper on the grinder. We're going to move up and up and up through about 7 different belts up to somewhere around 2,000 grit. And then we're going to finish with a jeweler's rouge, which I believe at somewhere 10 to 20,000 grit. At that stage, we've got a nice polished blade. We're going to engrave it, so we use the Japanese engraving tool. And we've put all our information on there, personalize it as if we want. Our next step is back out to the shop, and we're going to cut up our pieces of wood for it. We've laid it all out on our wood, cut it all out, split it in half, flatten everything out, and then we need to take the handle as it's split in half and start match drilling our pinholes. Once they're match drills, then I can finish the top on the grinder, pull it apart, and then put the knife in there, pin it, and then clamp everything together at once, and then we're gonna bake it. And at that stage, then I'm finishing the piece, I'm working on the grinder, I'm working the wood away, and we are done the knife.
So here's a finished product. I'm really happy with it, and we'll be using it from now on with our forging. Check out StevenTedfordKnives.ca if you would like a personalized knife too. If you would like to see more of these wonderful videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.